What is the aim of wealth generation? I want to lean on a podcast by Brad Hall. He's discussing Karl Popper and his ideas of the aim of science. And I just want to replace science with wealth generation because I think it's a general purpose idea that we can use for several other topics. And since we're in the business of wealth generation, I want to use it for wealth generation. It's very useful. It shows how powerful Karl Popper's ideas actually are because we can use them for anything, the aim of X, and then explain the process of finding better solutions to the problem because we can define the X as a problem and then what is the way to find better solutions. This is, in a nutshell, the aim of science, is finding solutions to problems, and is, in a nutshell, the aim of wealth generation, which is finding solutions to generate wealth. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's August 28, 2021. This is Krindelko. It's a Sunday, no update. We're still up 9.5%. The market's up 19.9%. We're underperforming by 10.4%. So Brad Hall's essay, shout out to Brad Hall, about the aim of science. I think it's a very inspiring essay, like most of his podcasts and inspiring podcasts, because it's an essay that Karl Popper wrote. And Karl Popper, to me, is fundamentally the most important philosophical basis of what we do at Orange Capital Partners. He's the base of David Deutsch's The Beginning of Infinity, and The Beginning of Infinity transpires into the other three books that we use as part of our principal stack. One is the Innovation Stack, the other is 0 to 1, and then the Innovator's Dilemma. So in that sense, Karl Popper goes even further back than The Beginning of Infinity in terms of trying to give us a guidance or an epistemological basis for what we do and why is it we're doing what we're doing. This is the purpose of this particular episode, is to try to apply Karl Popper to the generation of wealth. Now, what is wealth generation? I don't want to be caught in the what is and definitions and or what Popper calls essentialism. So what is the essence of wealth generation? What is there is no such thing as the essence of wealth generation. There is only a process of finding better solutions to the problem of wealth generation. I also don't want to be caught in the context of what is wealth, what is generation, and all that stuff. Let's just leave it at, like, it's a good thing to generate wealth because in one way or the other, the more wealth you have, the more free you are. Freedom is a good thing because it allows for more options. It allows for an expansion of opportunities. It allows for resources to actually think about problems and solve more problems. It allows for the build out of innovation stacks. It allows for disruption, which allows, for example, people to replace things with better things, replace companies with better companies, replace political institutions with better institutions. For all of that, we need wealth. So let's just leave it at that. We are very happy with wealth generation and we want to maximize wealth generation. The question of how to actually, what is the aim and how to do it, that is the answer that Karl Popper offers. And in a very Popperian way, first and foremost, his answer is a general purpose answer. So part of the explanation in the essay of the aim of science is to have general explanations. Explanations cannot be backed by the thing that you're trying to explain. So so there's two fundamental things that an explanation absolutely has to abide to. Number one, it cannot be based on something that you're trying to explain. And number two, there cannot be a circular reference, which are related. So what that means is that, for example, when on Wall Street, people would say things like, well, Walmart is the kind of company that wins in the marketplace. That's why I invest in Walmart. This is an explanation for why is it a good investment to invest in Walmart. It's because they win in the marketplace. You are explaining the reason for investing in Walmart by anticipating that the the thing that the methodology by which you want to achieve more success, i.e., investing in Walmart, the methodology which is, well, they are winners, that relies on the fact that they are a good investment. So you're basing your explanation on the thing that is to be explained, and that is not good. That is an ad hoc and easy to vary explanation, to use Popper's words. You can't use things like that. You can't say Tesla is a good investment because they're good at software. That is not a good explanation because it's easy to vary. You can just replace good with bad, and then you have to go prove what is good, what is bad. You can also say that there's a circular reference here, which is kind of the same thing, like basing your explanation on the outcome, which means that, well, because Tesla is good at software, they're a good investment. They're a good investment because they're good at software. That's a circular reference and therefore not interesting for us. So what we're really looking for is explanations that are independent of the outcome. So we're trying to have what Popper calls the unobservable to explain the observable. How do we explain stars in the sky, points in the sky? Well, we can explain them by saying that helium gets together into fusion, hydrogen gets together into fusion, creates helium, creates enormous amounts of energy, and that's what really a star looks like. And that is an unobservable, that is something that we don't see, but we can explain the dots in the sky. The star emits light, light goes at the speed of light, etc., etc. The outcome does not depend on the explanation, and the explanation doesn't depend on the outcome. This is fundamental. So how can we create investments that have those same characteristics? And we at Orange Capital Partners, we have built a principle stack that is trying to do that, trying to explain the observable with the unobservables. So for example, we're using books like 0 to 1, where let's say the main message is that you have to have a unique approach and you have to be obsessed enough with a small enough team to tackle something that not just nobody else is tackling, but that most people are claiming is even impossible to tackle. So then Innovation Stack is another book that starts, in a nutshell, talking about the compound value of knowledge being created on top of each other. And I think the Innovation Stack is very important when it comes to wealth creation, because we're trying to explain something here with unobservables, that is knowledge. And what's key about wealth generation is that wealth is generated when knowledge compounds. And we cannot predict knowledge today. And this goes back to one of the previous episodes about Bayesianism and how it doesn't work in investing. You see, you cannot say the probability of Tesla succeeding with full self-driving is 50%, because you don't know what knowledge Tesla will create based on the current knowledge, and so on and so forth. So the statement that we have current knowledge and with the information we can make statements about possible outcomes is futile, because we don't know what other knowledge will be created. For example, in a toss of coins or the rolling of dice, there is no new knowledge being created. So we can have probability statements and Bayesianism, but we cannot have that with investing. So the explanation that we apply at Orange Capital Partners for the question or the problem of how to generate wealth, it starts with uniqueness, an approach that nobody else is doing. It starts with knowledge that has the potential to compound and end up in an application with large impact. It has also the competitive response is part of the principle stack, where we think about, okay, how do competitors respond? And if competitors respond, then by definition you don't have a disruptive technology, and therefore it's not disruptive. And if they don't respond, then you have. This is fundamentally in Clayton Christensen. And then we also use, of course, David Deutsch and the beginning of infinity as a basis for all these principles, because in a nutshell, it says, first of all, whatever is possible under the laws of physics can happen, and that knowledge compounds, and then we should be very careful about making Bayesian statements. These are sort of the fundamental takeaways from our approach. And I think I would want to add one final thing here, which is, if you can assess something with probabilities, then it is not a wealth generating exercise. Wealth can only be generated where knowledge is compound, and therefore you cannot use probabilities in the sense of Bayesianism to assess the outcomes. I think also very, very important for our purposes is the concept of iteration and the lowering the cost of iteration. You see, lowering the cost of iteration has nothing to do with the outcome, which is wealth generation or winning in the marketplace. These are unobservables. Lowering the cost of innovation and iteration doesn't necessarily lead to a successful product or service in the marketplace. Lowering the cost of iteration has no direct relationship. There's no circular reference with finding a better medicine for cancer, but it is an explanation that makes sense, that is hard to vary. You see, it's very difficult to say, well, this makes no sense, or it's hard to vary. It's not anecdotal either. If you have the potential to iterate fast, if you can use computation, which is another accelerated form of iteration, to solve problems, then by definition, you have the chance to solve the problem. And if the problem is hard to solve and nobody has tackled it, it's because they haven't gone through this, let's say, call it the J curve of applying knowledge to a problem and applying unique knowledge to a problem. And this is exactly what we're looking for. So for example, when Tesla chose to use vision only, they got rid of Mobileye, they got rid of NVIDIA, and they started doing everything themselves in the full self-drive stack. This was something that we chose as an example of a company which maybe in the beginning might have some issues, but in the long term will win out because they can build an innovation stack. Thank you.